Hey, Evan. Approve minutes. Are we gonna vote to approve minutes? We need to vote to approve minutes. And then just make a serve the attendance. It's like quick. Oh, just do, and I don't like this whole non-computer.
Yeah, or wait, actually, I don't know.
A multi-million-dollar organization. We can. My fault. Chris, I have an extra. I hate that.
Hey, bro, looking putting in the USB, bro. Plugging it in. Okay.
Yeah. No, I got it. Oh, you got it? Wait, thank you.
All right, everyone. Could we please settle down? We're gonna go ahead and get this meeting started and call this meeting to order. I'm gonna go ahead and give everyone a quick second to go ahead and settle in. What happened to the front row? What happened?
All
right. We're gonna go ahead and vote on the approval of the minutes from last meeting. Austin's gonna go ahead and send that vote out. We're gonna go ahead and give polls out. Let's go ahead and give 2 minutes. 2 minutes. Let's go ahead and give 2 minutes starting now. Yeah, can I get
it.
It's fine. Okay.
I've got that.
30 seconds left to vote on the minutes from last meeting. 30 seconds to vote on the minutes from last meeting. Is this?
Lots of people. That guy's name's McCullough. I remember that guy.
How do you pronounce it? Nicola?
That's what I thought. You could the whole Ukrainian thing. Yeah. It's pretty cool.
We've been working together on the undergraduate business council.
How
come you didn't show up for your own acclamation?
You did. All right. I'm gonna go ahead and close the vote to approve.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go ahead and close the vote to approve the minutes from last meeting. What is it? It wasn't even a motion, I think that, but it's 30, one an abstention and, or 3 an abstention and, 1 in the negative. With that being said, today we have a guest speaker, from housing and from dining, who have come in today to present the fiscal year 25 plan on behalf of, KU Housing and KU Unions. So without giving further ado, we're gonna go ahead and give 30 minutes, that's all right? That sounds perfect. So we'll go ahead and do that. While you're getting started, I'm gonna go ahead and put up the diagrams that you showed me. Yeah, it might shut off yeah. Yeah, I think it's just a touch screen thing. Here it should be. Yeah, so any one of these, whichever one falls under you, I think it was dining. No, it was housing. Yeah, whichever one you guys take through. feel free to
Gotcha.
go ahead and put it.
All right, super.
Let's go ahead and give our speaker the respected time, 30 minutes, whenever you feel like.
Sure. Thank you so much. Hi, my name is Sarah Waters. I use she, her pronouns. I'm the Director of Student Housing. Also here tonight is Jejo Tukuran with the Memorial Unions, and I know you'll introduce yourself too. But we are here this evening to talk to Senate and you as student leaders about what we are proposing for student housing rates as well as residential, dining plan rates. Our process, as many of you I know are well aware, is annually our 2 units are responsible for proposing to the Kansas Board of Regents what our operational rate increases, or if we need them, are for fiscal year 25 is what we're looking at. So next academic year, we're currently in fiscal 24. In doing that, we need to come in and get student feedback. I've already been to the ASHC, the Association of Scholarship Halls, and met with them specific about their rates. And I've also been in with the Miller and Watkins residents because there's some different nuances with those 2 communities. I'm here tonight to get general student voice from all of you. So I'm going to go through this fairly quickly because I know you will have questions. I always appreciate the input and things you want us to consider. Let me see. So I sent handouts out in advance. And so I want to start quickly by giving you an overview of housing's financials. Student housing is an auxiliary at the university. And what that means is the income that we bring in from student revenue from room rates is really our primary revenue and our income. We do have summer camp and conference revenue that we do take in. And we have brought that back pretty strongly post-COVID. And so this past summer, we yielded about $650,000 in additional revenue. And that's amazing because it helps us keep our room rates down in the academic year. We also have a couple of trusts that we benefit from. Those are really specific to the Scholarship Hall community. But they also work really well for capital improvements. And so I'd like you to know that. But as an auxiliary, what we have to do then is cover all of our expenses. Housing is responsible for paying for everything that we do and everything that we use and everybody that works with our communities. And so that's all of our staff, it's all the facility services staff. It's anything related to our buildings in terms of maintenance, custodial, it's any student programming, anything that we need, housing's revenue, income has to cover that. And so in doing that, we prepare annually our financial information. And so this is the format that we present to the Kansas Board of Regents. Thought it was helpful. The other piece that I gave you is the specific breakdown of those FY23 financials, which is what's highlighted in green. But what you can see is where our income was for the previous 2 fiscal years as actuals, where we ended up this past fiscal. What is important for you to know is our directive in student housing is that our operating cash balance is supposed to be about 90 days. So that's the preferred, to have about 90 days operating cash carry forward annually so that we could cover a crisis situation, continue to pay our bills, continue to pay our debt service, which is significant in housing. 38% of our revenue goes immediately out to pay for loans. Basically, that's what bonds are, to cover different projects and things we've done over the life of our buildings. This past summer, this past fiscal, we did yield a little bit high on our cash carry forward. That is fairly intentional, but also the thing that we know, because we knew the class size was coming in high and we knew this coming year, our projected days were probably going to drop a little bit. Based on the master leases and things we had to enter into. We also know we had several large projects that did not pay out last fiscal, but that were in progress. And so that's why we ended cash at 105 105 days operating this past year. We're projecting this year, after all those bills pay for capital improvements and different projects we've done, all the income we've brought in, including that conference income, that will end this fiscal at 82 days. And then that's what we are starting to look at for next year in terms of projected, and that's where my rate increase comes in. All right, I'm going fast. I got to figure it back up. So the other page then that I gave you is our rate increase proposal. And so what you're going to see there is all the housing rates, all of the housing room types. Housing this year, we are requesting a 5% increase at all scholarship hall and all residence hall rates in order to cover our projected costs and to cover some capital improvement needs that we already have planned. And then the apartment living community, all of those rates were only increasing at a 3% increase. We feel that we have to do this increase this year because we've been told minimally to expect a 3% increase on our staff and expectations regarding health insurance and different premiums that we have to pay, including cost of living increases. We also are looking really closely at utility forecasting. That's actually coming in at a 5 to 10% increase, depending on the particular utility. We also know that inflation is definitely hitting everybody. And so we feel that we've got to go to the 5% in residence halls and scholarship halls in order to make up some of the differential and then end, as you're seeing on our projection, at that 60-day balance for next year. So being conservative in that, but we think we'll hit the 60-day balance in FY25 with this rate increase in. The other quick things that I will share, and then JJ can come up and we'll take questions after that. Couple of significant changes in student housing. This year, we're already going to pivot to this, but next year we're also going to continue. And we built a small increase in going to the full 5%. It was about a 0.2 of that percent. Student housing will remain fully open over winter break this year, as well as next academic year, all communities, and there'll be no expected expense to students to stay in their housing facility. In past years, residence halls and scholarship halls have closed over winter break. Anybody that needed to stay could sign up to stay, had to pay to stay. It was roughly $400 to $500 then for that 5-ish week period. And scholarship hall residents all had to move to another community because we fully closed those. So we had empty rooms in Hashinger. They took what they needed. They lived there on the interim. We know it was hard, and we know it highly inconvenienced people that this is their permanent home. But also students that work and live in Lawrence wanted to be able to come and go around the holidays, around winter break, and different obligations that they have. So we feel that that's a definite bonus. It's an opening access up to students and hoping to support them. And again, that begins this winter break, and then we'll continue into next year. That is my presentation. JJ, I believe, will come up, talk about the dining rate increases next. I'll bring this. I double clicked. Oh, sorry. Thank you.
Sort of general, and then you're signing, and just talk about like the part that I cut out.
Okay, yeah.
Hi, everyone. I'm JJ O'Toole Curran. I'm the interim director for the KU Memorial Union. And thanks, Sarah, for inviting us to come, and Student Senate for having us tonight. We appreciate getting to be here and be in front of students. A little bit about the KU Memorial Union, if you're new to this group. So the KU Memorial Union, similar to housing, we are we're a little bit of a different auxiliary on campus. We're a 501c3 affiliate of the University of Kansas. So while we're KU, we're a different version of that. So we're our own organization. So we're our own business here on the campus, but we service the KU campus essentially. The union itself manages bookstore operations, residential, retail, catering operations, event services, programming, and then we have 3 facilities that we manage on this campus along with our dining spaces. So that's a little bit of an overview of the union. The KU Memorial Union, and particularly KU Dining, is the largest student employer, single student employer on campus. We employ about 600 to 800 students a year within our organization. So that's something that is all our operations are really powered by students, is what I always say. Some of the things to look at in our proposal, we are requesting a 5% across the board increase with our dining plans. things that we look for in dining, as far as cost of food and where is that going? I know probably everyone has noticed in the last few years, the inflation of food has gone up considerably. We look at the USDA index, and they're predicting anywhere from 2 to 7% on inflation for food next year. So we're looking at our best look at that is about a 5% increase. Obviously, labor is another thing that is very important to us. And where are we going with that? We're going to have to look at cost of living increases, all of those things as well. So that is factored into that because we have a large. Should come back on. Oh, there it is. Sorry. So that is another thing that goes into that. Cost of equipment, labor, and utilities. Those are all the things that we look at when we're putting those dining pieces together as to what does this plan look like for the next upcoming fiscal year. We do have new dining leaderships I want to introduce tonight. His name, he's in the back, Osman Bear. He comes to us, he came to us in July and is now leading all of our food and beverage teams across the campus. And so Osman comes from a corporate background and hospitality background, a lot of great experience. His expertise is really in procurement and hospitality management. So we were very excited to have Osman come on board. As you know, last year when we came to this body, we had an interim person in the role. So we're really excited to welcome Osman to our group. And he has, in the last couple of months, hired a new leadership team within KU Dining. So we're pretty excited about that as well. As far as our plans go, similar to the plan that we have this year, across the board, once again, we're looking at that 5% increase. We have the all access plan, which gets you 19 meals a week. Plus you get $100 a semester in off-campus or campus retail money. You can see that on there and what that increase looks like. We have our Crimson Flex plan, which is a declining balance, which gives the student an opportunity to spend their money, use their dining plan, not only at our dining halls, but across the campus. And it's a very popular plan. We also have the Blue Flex plan, which is similar to the retail dining plan that I just talked about within Crimson. That's probably our most popular plan that students pick. And then I accidentally deleted the last cell on here. We have an off-campus student plan, faculty and staff. It's called the 440. You can put that on your KU card for $440 a semester or $440 a year. I'm sorry, I'm going to lose my thing. And that also gives you the ability to use free Grubhub delivery. So it's a pretty popular plan, but I forgot that line or deleted it. I think that's all the things that I was going to share with is where we're going. And I think we're now open for questions.
Yeah, let's go ahead and give a round of applause again to our speakers. So just to cut down on time, we are at about 12 minutes taken. So in terms of questions, I'm going to go ahead and take a queue. I'm going to go ahead and ask, wait, Farzad, do you have a question?
And then Chris too.
Farzad, Chris, any other questions? Camden, and then in the back, what's your name? Kenna, could you?
Yeah,
Yeah. Danae, awesome. Rob, okay. We're gonna go ahead and ask, I'm gonna go ahead and ask just for the scale of the questions that we ask, please no follow-ups for now. But
Yeah.
again, could we circle back? But yeah, Farzad, feel free to go ahead.
This is directed towards JJ regarding food. So does Grubhub pay a fee for like essentially monopoly access to the student body? Or do you guys pay Grubhub? Is there any sort of like deal that's set up with that?
So Grubhub is our POS, our point of sale that we use. And prior to that, we used a system called Micros. So we went to Grubhub during COVID so that we had the ability to do contactless support. So there are fees that we have to pay to Grubhub for the equipment that you use. So like when you walk up to the counter and you get a the kiosk, that's equipment that we had to purchase with our contract through Grubhub. Now, if you use your Grubhub app, there is a charge for that as well. But that is a cost that we have to pay annually for a point of sale system on the campus, whether you're in a residential or a retail dining location.
Okay.
The old system, when we were on Micros, I think it was on end of life. And so we had to make a decision to move on to another POS system.
What's the fee amount?
Let's go ahead and
The fee amount for
Grubhub?
Grubhub, that I'm going to have to get back with you on as far as you mean the fee amount for what we pay for the service of Grubhub? Okay, let me get you on that one, but yeah.
I have another question for the dining side of things.
Yes.
So I'm not sure if this is new or if I just missed it back when I was on a dining plan, but is the 19 meals per week for all access, is that a newer initiative?
No,
Okay,
that's been something that we've had since I've been at KU. We've always had an all access plan that most of the students that use that plan are probably residents of Daisy Hill. But
I mean-
that's been an option that's available.
I mean specifically the 19 meals per week part.
Yes, that's about how many, yeah, because that's how many meals we serve in a week in the dining hall.
I see, okay.
Yeah.
Is there should be one right there. Let's go ahead and.
I got hands, don't worry. This is for the housing side of things. I'm curious, as far as your debt servicing payments go, are all of your outstanding loans fixed rate? How has the rise in interest rates, affected your payments annually?
Everything's locked in through bonds. So it doesn't affect at this time. The only thing that would be impacting are the bond and lease payment side of what we do is that in the central district pro forma and deal that was done for Stouffer Place and Downs, there is an escalation expected to pay back on the lease payment annually. So that's not fixed debt. It's a lease payment that we pay as part of that public-private partnership.
Can you explain that in some more detail?
What do you want me to
The
explain? I just-
public-private partnership.
Okay, so when the central district, when the university decided to pursue this, like another build, and for construction, it considered different ways to finance that. And in doing that, a lot of universities will partner or make a public-private partnership, which basically they go out to the market. And this is a little bit of what's going on with 11th and Mississippi right now and everything going on trying to build at that site for the athletic complex. You go out and you look for a development partner and somebody who's willing to come in and basically finance the whole deal. And in doing that, they're going to ask for, just like a real estate developer would, they're going to ask for certain pieces, certain things in the overall deal in order to do it. So they're going to give you X millions of dollars, but they're going to expect payback on a certain schedule. They're going to expect management company and all the different pieces. Because they're for-profit developers. And so when KU went with the central district, I think that was in the 15-16 timeframe. That was to build ISB, as well as the parking garage, the central power plant, Burge, and the 2 residence facilities. So that's why I've got a separate aspect of debt and a separate payments that are due that I'll bill through Central KU. We run those buildings and student housing under our contract fully. We have control over the rates in those, even though there were certain things built into that particular deal that and expectations that we were increasing, but we need to make our decisions on how to do that. So we have operational control on most of the facility. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that's very helpful. Thank you.
Okay.
I think it was in the back.
My question's for dining. So the all access plan, is that the plan that scholarship hall students have, or is their plan separate?
I'm going to turn that one over to Sarah.
So the scholarship hall students do not have a plan through KU Dining. If you look at my proposed room rates and the scholarship halls, there's a meal plan on there. And that 10 of the scholarship halls are required to take that. And they pay next year, it'd be $27.30. And then we buy the food for them and then they cooperatively cook in their community. They set the meals. And so that meal income comes into housing and that gives us scholarship hall communities choice. Sometimes Scholar Hall students might opt, JJ called that 440 plan a commuter plan or off-campus plan. It's actually a pretty popular plan with apartment living students, right? Because they don't have to have a meal plan, but they'll pick it up so they can grab coffee, grab a snack. And even some of the Scholar Hall students are picking that up now. So when they're across campus during the day, they can use that 440 meal plan as just an option that they picked up. So, but that's how Scholar Hall meal service works.
Thank you. Sorry, I missed that on the bottom of the
it's fine.
halls.
Danae?
Hi, I'm not sure which of you could answer this question best, but could you just please explain the rationale behind changing the way that dining is received in Mrs. E's on Daisy Hill, where last year it was like a self-serve buffet, whereas now it's dining serving it per student?
That's a great question. So going into the pandemic, we used to have our dining staff serve the food on the lines. When we got to the pandemic, our staffing got so low that we had to change that scenario around so that it was self-serve. We've now gotten better staffed in those locations, and we've gone back to that model of having the staffing serve it. It does make a difference on the cost of food and how you manage those things. So we've returned to that model that we did before the pandemic.
Rob? Yeah, let's get you one. Is there one in that side of the room? Or Danae? I think Danae has one right there. Oh, okay.
Cam, I got you. Sorry.
For dining, sorry, what's the calculus behind putting ease, like closing ease from 2 to 4, and same thing with the south dining hall?
I think we made that decision last year so that we have time to have the turnaround to prep for dinner. And that is our lowest attendance time as far as students go, was one of the things that we talked with housing, I think at the end of the year, on our hours of operation, but it gives us the time to reset from lunch to dinner. And so we do close those stations down.
Awesome. This is for housing, the housing side of things as well. As part of the 11th and Mississippi Campus Gateway project, are there any, is there any planned construction of new university housing units, either there or elsewhere on campus? Or is your supply expected to remain fixed in the short term?
Camden, I believe you were one of the prime question askers last year too, weren't you? Yeah, no, you asked great questions, which I remember you. So at 11th and Mississippi right now, there's no set like finalized plan, but it's been talked about as a potential that student housing might be in there. But all of the initial conversations are just really, really preliminary. In terms of housing stock and capacity, big first year class, right? Big first year class, but also retention was really, really excellent, right? For first to second year students. So it's really great momentum for the university. We also know, just anecdotally, but not even anecdotally, but we have data that shows that students that start in housing, even with all the struggles, right, of living together with people, but you adjust, you make friends, hopefully you're getting connected. Students that start with us in student housing tend to be retained at higher rates. And so that's something that we're looking at really, really closely with our university leadership. We know we didn't have enough this past year, and we knew, I had told them, if you go over 5,000 with that first year class, we're not going to have space. We're going to have to do something, and you're not even required to live with us, but on all those historicals. So talking to the chancellor, talking to the CFO and the provost, we're trying to be really intentional about where we might build out, what we could build out, should we, also knowing that enrollment is likely to go down because 18-year-olds in the United States are dropping. I'd like to have more housing stock because I do think it would help this first years, especially as you're getting transitioned. We know we have upper class students that want to continue with us, and that you would if we had the right price point in the right vicinity. So it's a very, very important conversation right now, and I really encourage your leadership to continue to ask in the meetings you're in to be part of that, because I absolutely want student voice in what we're doing moving forward.
Are there any other questions? We're good right now.
I represent the School of Pharmacy. We have a location over there that has the option to have dining, but it has not been staffed for quite some time now. Are there any plans to resume that, or do you have any information on that?
That's a great question. We don't have plans to resume it right now. I think that you have vending machines over there, and you've got coffee vending, right? And I know that's not extremely popular. Right now, I talked to the School of Pharmacy this summer about that question. There's some challenges involved in that there's not a density of people that walk through that space every day. They indicated there's about 250 students a day. And so to reopen that kitchen space that's down there, we would have to have a significantly larger crowd to make that work. And on that side of campus right now, you have all that construction that's happening with the Crossroads. So
your building is probably even at a lower census.
Mm.
But we did have that conversation. They expressed that concern to us, and we don't have any plans yet to do that. There was some options that we talked to them about if that was needed. But that's a great question, and we get that question often about conversation.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other, I know, Rob? All right, go ahead.
For dining, did you guys increase student wages this year? And if you did, what was that increase?
Good question. So what we did for, instead of increasing the base rate, if you come to K Dining and work for us, our starting rate salary is $11 per hour. But if you stay with us after a semester, you can get a retention at 25 cents. So we started a retention plan so that you can earn a little bit more as you work for us, so that one, you can retain your student and have a better qualified student working for us, versus raising the base rate.
In the back, Kenna?
Housing. So scholarship populations are declining, especially as prices keep getting raised. Is there anything specific that housing is planning to try to keep students in that population? Or sort of what's the plan there?
So I'm assuming you read that headline in the Kansan. Potentially. And I would actually say that data is not completely accurate. So yes, the population's declined if you look at it since 2012. But since I arrived at the university in 2017, the scholarship halls have been fairly consistent as we've worked to remarket and really work with the leadership down there for stability. The COVID year absolutely was hard. And of course, everything went down. We're about flat this year. Last year, the scholar population, if I remember, was 534 out of 571 total. This year, they're 540. And so we have opportunities for residents to live down there if they want to. And it's a huge piece for us to be able to have that as access. And we're working with the leadership down there to promote them.
Kenan?
One last I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name.
My name, Sarah Waters.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you very much, Sarah.
Yeah.
One last question. When you need to scale up supply, like let's say you have a bunch of freshmen show up unexpectedly, as you know, has happened recently.
Mhm.
How exactly do you house them if you don't necessarily have the units? Are you going out into the community and leasing apartments on their behalf? Or can you talk a little bit about how that process works?
Well, the Kansas Board of Regents puts parameters on how we can do that and what we're able to do. And so they have to approve everything that we are looking at doing. And so as we were realizing and understanding how large this potential first year class was going to be last year and looking at our numbers of housing contracts and knowing where we'd run out of space, we put some limiters on returners. So we put limits on returners initially that they had to contract and pick by March 8th because we were holding a certain percentage. And so we had quite a predicament because the yield came in really high. Well, the numbers came in high. The yield was about 76.5% of the first year class living in student housing. And so I was working with Jeff DeWitt and the chancellor, provost, Tamara Durham as our vice provost, to look at what options were there and what was possible. This past year, we were also hoping to find communities that would meet the bed count we were looking for that were right next to campus because we knew that would be the better experience. And we also had an opportunity presented to us by the ownership of Naismith Hall to potentially consider them and to enter into a master lease agreement with them. But desperate times sometimes call for desperate measures. And so honestly, other campuses, I'm sure you've heard, they put people into hotels where they master lease hotels. We had considered that. We were looking at what we could do where, because if we needed to house those first year students, even returning students, we were committed to trying to do that. And so we try to be as creative as possible.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Ivana?
Yes.
Go ahead.
All right, so I have a questions like what are the opportunities and benefit for student who work in like housing or student dining?
So these are opportunities or benefits for students that work in housing. Yeah, well, we employ almost 500 students through our front desks. Or this year we have 160 undergraduate staff that mostly RAs, but also proctors and food board managers that work and serve in our communities. And so I think our starting desk assistants are $10. We pay 10, 11, and 12, depending on the shift differential and the particular position. We also have a lot of leadership opportunities in our community for students to get involved as well, that aren't necessarily paid, but you get the experience. And so that's what I would say in terms of the leader or our student opportunities. And you answered that.
So when you work with KU Dining, we start at $11 an hour. There's an opportunity to earn more as you stay with us. Students do receive a meal benefit while they're working with us. And then we have scholarships that students can apply for. Now, obviously not every student that works for us gets a scholarship, but we have a scholarship program that we can offer to students. And then they get it helps them with their schedule, honestly, because they can work on campus instead of having to go off campus. They can, come to the union or go to their dining hall or wherever they work. And then that helps them, get to class easier and be more connected to the campus. So that's what we offer as far as the student benefit goes if you work for dining.
Are there any other questions? If there are, I'm going to need an extension of time. Any extension of time? Do you is that motion?
Extend time 10 minutes.
10 minutes, is there a second objection? No? All right, let's do 10 minutes. Rob, I'll let you go ahead.
For housing, I was wondering what the 2 million university assessment was. Seemed like, yeah, pretty expensive.
Are you on the pie chart?
Yeah.
University assessment 3.5 and then university. Yeah. So the university, I'm just making sure I'm on the exact number, 1.87 million. So it's called our university overhead assessment. And it's basically like a tax. And so the revenue that housing brings in annually, we get taxed by the greater university at 3.5% off of that in order to fund central services around the university. And so we do pay a portion then to people in to the central budgets, so that university police, human resources, different centralized services that we take advantage of because we're part of the greater KU, we have to use because we are part of that. So that's our contribution back.
Camden, just a quick,
clarify. So is your gross operating revenue figure on the balance sheet actually only 96.5% of your total revenue? So in other words, where is that tax, for lack of a better term, figured in on the sheet?
On the balance sheet, it is built into, I get the right thing in front of me, would be in our gross operating expenses.
Understood. Okay.
Yep. That 19.2 for last year. Yeah.
Are there any other questions? Just a quick thing. So Sarah, JJ, if I'm correct, this is being presented next week or the fall, really soon to, is it KBOR?
Oh, our proposal's due to the chancellor's office, 2 weeks actually. 2 weeks out is when the materials are due to the Board of Regents. And then it's the November meeting. Is first read of the housing and dining rates with initial questions, and then the formal vote on all the K-Board school proposals is the December K-Board meeting.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I think if there are more follow-up questions, we can definitely go ahead and find opportunity to go ahead and talk to them again if there are more in-depth things. But Farzad, go ahead.
Yeah, so are there any?
Are there any provisions or penalties associated with early payment on those bonds? Are they taxable? Or because of your 501c3 status, are they more protected regarding that?
Housing we're not a 501c3, we're part of the state.
That's only for that.
Yeah.
Okay. And then what are the penalties associated if there are any on premature payment?
I do not believe there are any
Okay.
on our bonds.
Okay. And then I think I wrote something.
We just have to have the money to pay it.
Farzad, before you go, are there any other questions?
I've got a list. I'll email them to you.
Yeah.
So you could write them on this
Yeah.
paper.
Yeah, I can of course send you their email as well. Are there any other questions or Rob?
Who?
For the improvement part of your budget, what is that going to?
Well, I missed the first part, sorry.
It's like the gray in the pie chart, the transfer to repair and improvement fund. Is that being spent on things each year, or are you just using that to save up until you can kind of remodel a whole building or something?
I was waiting for somebody to ask me that. Thank you. We almost spend that money annually. And so in fiscal year 23, housing spent $3.5 million on capital improvements in our system. And that was $730,000 in scholarship halls, and then about 2.8 million in residence halls and apartments. And so those contributions annually that we move over to that repair and improvement fund, we nearly always spend them immediately the following year. This is where those trust funds come into play. And so you don't see all of our expenses on the pie chart here in terms of capital improvements because the private gifts of the trust fund don't show up on this. And so that's why our overall capital improvement expenditures do look higher than what, like when I just said 3.5 million, than what you're seeing expensed out on this. This current fiscal year, we have $6.4 million planned in capital improvements. That does include $3.8 million for a Lewis renovation that's completely privately funded through a Pearson Trust. Next year, right now, we've only got $2.6 million of projects confirmed, but we know we have upwards of 5 million additional. We just have to make sure that we can fund them.
Are there any other?
It moves and then we spend it is basically the answer.
Are there any other questions? I think phenomenal. All right. Yeah, definitely. Let's go ahead and give our speakers a warm round of applause again. While they're wrapping up, Evan's gonna go ahead and send out a link that we're gonna use as our formal attendance this week today. He's gonna send out a link that is gauging our response to the fiscal year 25 plan from both housing and dining. Please fill that out. We're gonna use that as our attendance for this meeting. And with that being said, let's go ahead and move on to the next item of our agenda, which is the ops reports. I'm gonna go first, like 30 seconds. John, here's on. Yeah. All right.
This works.
Not much new on my end. Not much new on my end. I think I've met with a few of you, and it's been lively discussion. I think the only thing I'd say is we're gonna have follow-up meetings with all these entities that come to student assembly, and so look forward to making announcements about being able to talk to them, follow up, ask corresponding questions, and we want to make sure that your outlook is your feedback is sent out to whether it's housing, dining, whatever other entity we have come in. But I think aside from that, that's all I have for this week. I think Turner. You're up next. How much time do you need? How much time do you turn? 2 minutes? 2 minutes? All right. Whenever you want to start.
Okay. All right, everybody. Short and sweet, per usual. Danae Como, Luke Stanford, and I are going to TCU this next weekend for the Big 12 conference. So the point of the conference is to learn what other student senates are doing, what we can learn from other schools, and then what we can implement here. So we're excited to go. We leave Thursday, we come back Saturday, just a quick trip. Next week, I'm meeting with the athletic director to discuss a couple of things, including tailgating and just overall student involvement with athletics. Super excited. I think it's going to be a really good conversation. He's excited as well. On Monday, I met with the rec center and dining to talk through my hope for the year to get a healthy food option inside of the rec center. So we have some healthy food options around campus, but I think students are looking for something more inside the rec center, especially like protein shakes or avocado toast, those healthy options. You just worked out. You want some healthy food. I'm really excited about it. There's lots of options on other campuses. So hopefully we can get some headway on that. Osman and JJ, I met with them with the rec people, and they are contacting franchisers. I don't know the right word for that, but some good work there. Danae and I met with the University Business Council president today. So we're going to do some sort of collab with them. We don't really usually interact with them, but why not? They have a lot of student groups over there, a lot of students in the business school. So business school senators, be ready to go to their general assembly in a few weeks. For the KBOR side of things, I am hosting the other Kansas Board of Regents school presidents next Wednesday. They're going to get a campus tour to see how much better our campus is than theirs. And also we're going to eat at the Bruce or here. And then we're going to talk through what our goals are for the year when we actually meet with KBOR. And then advisory boards will be finished by tomorrow. So when you submitted that form a few weeks ago, you will be emailed tomorrow.
Thank you so much, Turner. Good man. All right. Fun fact, Turner loves caramel M&Ms, so feel free to go ahead and give him some if you feel so kind. Renee, how much time do you need? Caramel M&Ms.
Yeah, like 3 minutes.
3 minutes, all right.
Okay. Okay. So we had our first ever Student Senate tailgate last Saturday, which was awesome. Yeah. And we'll be having another one for homecoming, which will be a first ever student homecoming tailgate. So that'll be exciting. Our little homecoming committee is planning a lot of fun things. So that'll be a good time. Hope to see a lot of you there. And then an update on merch. So last assembly, we voted on the merchandise and we have our top 2 winning designs. We're going to do t-shirts and crew necks, and we're working on getting those orders in. Hopefully we'll get that ordered and paid for by the end of the week. And then the goal is to have it here by homecoming and in the bookstore so that we can start selling that. You guys can wear it to the game. But that's the goal, is to have it by homecoming, but it may not happen. We don't know, but that's the goal. And then the big event is what we're planning for the gardening project that we're working on at Spooner Hall, or the courtyard right next to Spooner Hall, which you guys have heard me talk about the different meetings I've had with like the director of facility services and the director of the commons, and so setting that up. And so if you're interested in volunteering Saturday, October 21st, and helping with that project, it's going to be a lot of weed pulling and just yard work out there. So if you're interested in volunteering, just come find me here during assembly or afterwards, or feel free to email me and we'll add you to the volunteer list. And our outreach director, Mahir, he will be leading the project that day. So also feel free to email him and we'll get you signed up. That's all.
Camden, you're next.
Hey everyone, I hope you're doing well. I know you're all anxious to get started, so I'll do my best to keep this brief. For those of you that haven't heard, next cycle in our councils, we're going to be having fee elections. I've been up here before. I'm going to introduce myself in case you're not familiar. My name is Camden. I chair the Finance Council, and as part of that role, I also chair the required campus fee review subcommittee. It's a mouthful, I know, but colloquially, it's just fee review. And we're electing members of that committee next week, 4 from finance, 2 from social justice, and 2 from rights, as well as 2 appointments made by the graduate student body president. And I believe that's everything. There's a few exec members that have seats ex officio, and 1, including Chris, who will actually be a voting member. But I want to tell you a little bit about what fee review is, so that for those of you who are considering running, you'll know what you're getting into. I've mentioned this before again, but on top of your tuition every semester, as it currently stands, you are charged $507.05. And that's per semester. This is over $1,000 that is coming per student per academic year in order to support operations around campus. And the University of Kansas is extremely, extremely unique in that our student government has a direct say in how that $21 million is spent. That is million with an M. No, I'm not making that up. If you are on this committee, you will have a direct hand in deciding how over $20 million are spent. There's a reason that I'm signing up to do it for my 3rd time. It is a very stressful experience. It has been likened to hazing in that it is the most fun that you never want to have again, but clearly I'm doing a good end, so it can't be that bad, right? Fee Week will be held February 5th. This is a week-long commitment. You will spend close to 25 hours in hearings, as well as most of Friday afternoon in a deliberation. I'm not going to lie to you and tell you that it isn't exhausting and an incredibly taxing commitment, but I wouldn't be up here recommending it if I didn't believe that it wouldn't give you an incredibly valuable perspective on how this university functions, how all universities function, and frankly, how fiscal policy and government as a whole functions. I'll tell you that as far as things that I have talked about in interviews that have seemed to have had the most success for the career focused among us, this is a pretty good one. I would absolutely recommend having it on the resume. And the only way to do that is by running, which will happen next week. I am happy to answer any additional questions that you may have, but first and foremost, I need you all to understand that this is a commitment of an entire week, the week of the 5th in February, as well as some occasional meetings before winter break and in the weeks running up to this. It is a massive undertaking that I will be coordinating with the help of a ton of people, including all of you that choose to run. But I would love to have you on there, and I would love to see elections be competitive as they were last year. This is a critically important function that student government serves at the University of Kansas that you don't really find in any other places around the country. I'm not exaggerating when I say that this is an opportunity that almost no college students in the world have, and I urge each and every one of you to avail yourself of it while you're here. Any questions for me? Admittedly, I have a pretty huge midterm tomorrow, so I'm probably not going to stay after, but you can send me an email. Any point. I'm assuming you guys know my email address. Just look me up in the directory, but I'm happy to answer any questions. So thank you.
Evan, how much minute? Awesome. You can take a little more. All right, Evan's up next.
Hey everyone, freshman elections are finally happening. The form will go out on Monday at 6 a.m. and close on Thursday at 5 p.m. on Rock Chalk Central. So if you're a freshman looking to get elected, please fill out that form. The elections will take place on October 31st. Spooky will open at 6 a.m. and finish the following day, November 1st at 4 p.m. on Wednesday. All right, so now we're going to acclimate new senators. So Titi Patel for business, are you here? She is here. Sean Lawson is here. Adriana Brady, are you here? Yes. And then Mikola is here with business. Can I get a motion to acclimate the new senators? You go.
Prasad, second with Kanal. Any objections? Awesome. Welcome to Senate. With that being said, let's go ahead and move on to the next time on our agenda, which is the consent agenda. I'm looking for a motion in any, is that a motion to vote? Awesome. Second by Chris. Any objections? All right. Actually, let's go ahead and put that to vote. Austin's gonna go ahead. Rob, what's up?
Yeah, I had an objection.
You have an objection?
Yeah, I just wanted to propose an amendment to one of the bills.
Which bill?
The one for Hygie for the
Yeah,
games.
we're gonna have to go ahead and vote on that amendment, but what's the amendment?
Take away the Candyland, because like how many of you have paid Candyland since you were like 18, right? This just seems like
How much money is allocated towards?
it's only $15. It's not. All
right, we can do
It's
that.
not big.
We want to vote an amendment to, we have to vote an amendment to. All right, let's go ahead and let's go ahead and put a vote out for an amendment to the Hickey Club bill, that Senate Bill 25, and remove $15 to Candyland. Chris, are you gonna make it?
Secretly, you have to.
What are you talking about? That's not on the bill. 2025 or -25?
It's 27.
Tabletop, we're talking about the tabletop bill.
Oh,
It's 27.
27.
so are we talking about the Hickey, or is it, Rob, is your amendment about the Hickey Club, or is it about?
I honestly thought it was about the Hygie Club.
All right, let's take a second to clarify this. So Rob, is this Candyland? Where is this Candyland at? I mean, do we even have? All right.
No, it's tabletop. My bad.
It's tabletop. All right. So there's $13 to Candyland. There's an amendment. There's a motion. There's an amendment on the floor. We need a motion to vote on amendment.
Yeah, we need a motion.
We need a second on it. So there's a motion to amend. Is there
Hang on, I object to
You
that.
object to the amendment?
I rescind.
You rescind the amendment. All right. Now he rescinds the amendment. There's a motion from side to vote on the consent agenda. There's a second by Chris. Are there any objections to voting on the consent agenda? Thank you. We're gonna go ahead and put out a vote for the consent agenda. Hold out. Can you put a timer on? My phone's dead.
There's $80.
The direct final expression. Especially for everything I'm trying to lose your mouth for 3 years. I used to apply to every single license that I got. And then we go nowhere. It's fine.
Don't give me, that was the bill I wanted to buy. No, this, I was like, it's not worth it. I literally even have the right bill. Yeah.
All right, 30 more seconds remaining to vote. Are we at time, Ivan? 8 seconds. With that being said, the poll is now closed and the consent agenda, guys, the consent agenda passes with a affirmation in 39, 0 in the negative, and 1 abstention. With that being said, we're going to go ahead and move on to a regular agenda. And the first item on the regular agenda is the Society of Women Engineers. Let me go ahead and get that slide up for you. And you said 4 minutes?
Yeah, that's right.
Awesome. I just need to get this. Email it. Who did you email it to me?
Right?
Chris,
The presentation.
thank you for showing me that.
Or actually, no, Sai sent it to me. Sai sent it to me. Send a speaker. Send speaker. Speaker.
So I say that I'm.
That makes more got 100, right? How much got approved? Yeah, so you guys. Yeah, I was definitely. 500 line was already there.
Okay.
You got this. You got this. Yeah, you got this.
It's like the final.
Yes, yes, yes.
It's the actual.
Yeah. Did you get that over? Yeah, let me go ahead.
Talks. He likes to be really direct about certain things.
It's up to finance and social services, right?
Right.
Right.
You know, petroleum.
Sorry about that. Tech is a issue that we've had throughout the year, so sorry about that. But we're gonna go ahead and allocate our speaker 4 minutes to present from the Society of Women Engineers.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ivana Dominic. I'm a senator from the School of Engineering, and I'll be presenting for the Society of Women Engineers. So I've actually already presented on behalf of this organization for the Finance Council and the Rights, and we already got allocated $2,100. So I'm just going to reiterate the presentation. So the mission of this organization is an international organization that advocates for women in engineering and technology. At KU, SWE empowers and connects female engineering students. This organization isn't just open to women, it's open to men and female. And we actually have quite a lot of students in the organization that aren't just female. So the mission statement of the organization is to stimulate women to achieve full potential in careers as engineers and leaders, expand the image of engineering profession as a positive force in improving the quality of life, and demonstrate the value of sorority. Diversity, sorry. So the picture to the right over here is from Engineers Rock the Block, where students of all grades could come to the School of Engineering and tie-dye shirts were given out. And then it was like a little craft, and it was a great way to like make connections, but also to make friends.
And our activities and everything are open to the general public in the School of Engineering, so it's open to everyone. So regardless of your major, yeah, anyone's able to come, so. Okay, so our organization, what we do is we host networking events, professional development, outreach and education, advocacy and support and mentorship. So for our networking events, we do like presentations, workshops, meetings, connections with fellow engineering students. We do mentorship program where upperclassmen mentors younger members to help them with their academic and career paths. So we've actually done this every single year since we've been an organization at KU. And it's a great way to facilitate mentoring with like upperclassmen and underclassmen, but also to like meet other people in your major. Professional development, we offer our students resources, opportunities for students to enhance professional skills, resume workshops, interview prep, and career fair preparation events. So recently we did like a career fair preparation night for the students within the School of Engineering where Pepsi, Frito-Lay brought some of their employees and people like helped with like resume critiques, like interview prep. And it was a really great way to like meet people within the industry, but also to like make connections in case you want like an internship or you're looking for a job. Outreach and education. The organization is involved in programs to inspire young women to pursue STEM careers. They host an annual Girl Scouts event along with STEM education events. They're also working on an event to work with like local elementary schools, just to like do like little fun projects and stuff, just to inspire them to learn more about engineering, but also how science is fun. And then advocacy. So that the organization does a lot to advocate for gender equality and inclusivity within the School of Engineering and the industry as a whole. So there's lots of like guest speakers. We recently brought in someone from like KU Innovation Park. We're bringing in alumni from the Society of Women Engineers, like former students that studied engineering at KU and are coming back and telling their story about how this organization inspired them and led them into like a field and like let them learn about people that have similar interests as them and kind of form a collaborative community. Okay, Evening with Industry is probably the largest event the Society of Women Engineers holds. It is open to all members within the School of Engineering. Essentially what it is, it's the biggest networking event where there are 30 employers and more than 200 students that come together for a networking hour and a formal dinner with like an inspiring keynote speaker from industry. So think of all like the big name organizations that you would think of within engineering. So for those of you that aren't familiar, like Hewitt, Burns and Mac, Garmin, AT&T, yeah, tons of different companies from all different types of majors. And basically Society of Women Engineers, they finance the event. So they pay like more than $8,000 for food just to bring in the employers. They also find all the employers, they find all the recruiters, and they essentially are a big part of making this event happen. So they do all of this and it's open to all students, as you can see, and there's always a huge turnout. More than 200 students participate every year.
An extension in order to let the Mahir, how much time? 5 minutes. Second by Chris. Injections. Awesome. Continue ahead.
Okay, breakdowns of students by major. So we have a wide variety of students in different majors. So this is a breakdown of our membership by major. We have like 18.4% aerospace, 11.8 architectural. We have bioengineering, chemistry, civil engineering, computer science, electrical, engineering, physics, environmental, mechanical, petroleum, and we also have a representation of graduate students. So it isn't just open to undergrads, it's also open to grad students as well. So why SWE was requesting Senate funding. So a big part of that is for the conference registration. Not for the travel part, but just for the registration part itself for the conference. There are 6 members going into the conference that's in Los Angeles, California, with about $280 per person for registration. Additionally, engineers rock the block. The t-shirts that are given to the members is about $320 for the shirts, and it's given to both the men and the females, or men and women that attend the event. Also, food for meetings. Food is paid for us from our organization funds. So there's usually more than 80 members at each of the meetings. And a lot of the time we partner with other organizations within the School of Engineering, like American Society of Mechanical Engineers, American Society of Civil Engineers, National Society of Black Engineers, lots of different student organizations within the School of Engineering. And then of course, Evening with Industry, which I mentioned earlier. It's a lot more than $150, which is what we requested. This is an annual event, so we're trying to work on acquiring funds for the event and pay off some of the events for this year, since the food itself was about $8,000, given the quantity of the students and the amount that we had to provide. Okay, lastly, this is a breakdown of the budget. So for I do need to change that. It's $2,100 that was approved from the Finance and the Rights Council. There was $500 of line funding, which was allocated. So essentially, it was just the conference competition and registration. Food for meetings was taken off due to the line funding, and then it was T-shirts, and then $100 for evening with industry, which was the food and the catering. Thank you all. That's it.
Are there any questions for our speaker? Go ahead. Is there a catch box on that side of the room? Awesome.
You mentioned that you had 70 something members. How do you determine the members? Is it one
We don't-
event or?
We don't have 70 members. I said we average like 80 members per meeting. We have like more than 100.
Okay,
Yeah, 150. What was the second part of your question? I'm sorry.
I was just wondering, you showed a graph with majors.
Yeah.
So I was wondering where you got that from. Is it throughout average?
Yeah, we took a poll like in our group chat. So basically whoever filled out that poll, we kind of did like a demographic breakdown by major. That's kind of how we did that, but yes.
Sahar?
Who's getting credit for the conference?
So it was actually, it was an application process. So everyone that was interested in applying for the conference had to fill out a form, and then it was an executive decision. So the presidents read through the applicants, and then they essentially decided who's going, so.
So how many people that aren't on the board?
It's like one or two. Yeah.
In the back?
Hi, I have a question about that registration fee. You said it was $280. Is that the student fee? Or the collegiate fee? Because it says online that the collegiate fee is for just SWE members is $135.
Yeah, I'm honestly not quite sure. I think
Okay.
it is something to do with the conference itself, so my
Okay.
specifically towards the news fee that you mentioned.
Okay, so it's not quite 280, but it's 135 per student.
I would have to look back at.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
Thanks.
And are there any other questions? Awesome. So there's a motion to vote, second by Camden. Motion by Austin, second by Camden. Any objections? Awesome. So Austin's gonna go ahead and get that poll out. Let's go ahead. Let's go. Austin's faster. Let's go ahead and allocate. Let's do 2 minutes to vote. 2 minutes. Starting now. I'm gonna go ahead and gavel when 30 seconds arrives.
Your attendance fee, your registration stuff that you have, that sounds really high for but that might be. Okay, yeah, it might also be like the out of state, like a part of that too. Is that also?
I think that is including that, yeah.
So,
Yeah, because like the breakdown budget I got from the organization had the $280 in it, and that's what they're requesting, so. Just.
yeah, no, absolutely. No, that's just like, we could go back to
Yeah,
like. But even for us.
I was like, we're also canceled, and we are going to like Los Angeles.
So like, yeah, I'm a speech language pathologist, we're on the field, student fees are like 135. Which is, as there, if that's a year, so it's a collegiate fee. I don't know if that's for one day or for the whole day, but I think push back against the ones who want to say
First week, like the big.
yeah, so for your, yeah, for your registration, but I got 280 per student, you can give me 5.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, the conference, like.
30 seconds left to vote.
Yeah, I-
Please get your vote in. 30 seconds. 30 seconds left to vote. Please get your vote.
I mean, that's, I go to conferences all the time, it's very high features. Regardless of what. Well, I mean, especially since it's like an affinity, like, it's not even like the associate.
Close it, close the poll. We are now at time. And the bill passes with 33 in the 33 in the affirmative, 3 in the negative, and 2 abstentions. That bill clearly passes. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the next on our agenda, which is Senate Bill 29. Kim, could you go ahead and pull up the bill on that Teams? If you go ahead and just go to Student Assembly or go back to the Teams app, like what? I'll count there in a second, but we're gonna go ahead and allocate Camden 5 minutes, talk about the New York Times.
You gotta be smarter than the, oh, sorry.
Another thing. Here, you want the bill up?
Yeah, that's cool.
No comment. Whenever you're ready, feel free to go.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Awesome, guys. I will again do my best to make this brief so we can
Get the heck out of here. You guys know who I am. I won't bother with that, but traditionally, Student Senate has paid for a campus-wide New York Times subscription that all enrollees at the University of Kansas have access to. If you haven't signed up yet, there's a link in the email that you got from Dr. Durham, the vice provost in like the second week of school. You can also get to it through the campus library's website. I'm more than happy to walk you through the process, but the upshot is for roughly $12,500 a year in past years, we're able to ensure that all students at the University of Kansas have access to what I would consider quality journalism and what I assume most people would too. Basically, the reasoning behind this, in my mind, makes a lot of sense in line with the mission of what a public university should be doing, and that is to develop more responsible, better informed citizens. In my view, it is impossible to be a more responsible, better informed citizen in a participatory democracy if you don't have access to any kind of current affairs or any sort of understanding of what's happening in the world around you at any given moment, which is why I presume this New York Times subscription was initially purchased. So my sophomore year, though, we kind of hit a rough spot with fee. Costs kept rising, but our student fee allocation did not, which meant that we had to make hard choices, one of which was the cessation of our deal with the New York Times. That subscription was not renewed, and within 2 weeks of that school year, we had received, I don't know the exact number, but it was a lot of emails. People were upset about this. It's clear that students at KU felt as though this was something that benefited them, and they were frankly pissed off when it wasn't there anymore. So last year I took it upon myself to write this very bill with a different number. It was the same bill, but I contacted the New York Times. I reached out to Sophia Tarlis, who's their sales rep, started the process of negotiating a deal for a campus-wide subscription that got handed off to libraries. And then like 3 months later, we got a bill, we wrote the check, and now you all have access to the New York Times, with the understanding that we were going to hammer that out again in fee this past year. But as many of you know, the numbers are always tight in fee, which you get to have a part in if you run, which you should do that. Shameless plug there. Long story short, it wasn't renewed. It was very unfortunate. But the subscription doesn't expire until January 1, which is when it was initially renewed. So in other words, we have, according to the New York Times, until October 18th. So that's like 7 days, a week, to have a funding commitment so we can begin the process of renewing this deal. The amount that I have reserved, which is $13,507.42, is a 1-year renewal. It is technically cheaper per year if you buy in a 2, 3, or 4 year increment, but legal gets very upset with us if we start entering contracts, and that frankly would probably not be approved. So I went with the 1-year renewal. But this is essentially the exact same deal that we currently have. It guarantees student access to high quality journalism that allows KU students to better their understanding of the world and hopefully become better Kansas citizens, better American citizens, and better global citizens. I believe pretty strongly in this, and I'm more than happy to answer any questions that you might have about it.
Thank you so much, man. Are there any questions for Camden in the back?
Hi, Camden. So it has been brought to my awareness, I guess, that Lawrence Public Library, as long as you have a library card, you have unlimited access to both the New York Times and Washington Post. And so majority of people in this room who are currently living in Lawrence will have access to that, as well as majority of KU students. So why do you find it necessary for us to fund another subscription when, if you're living in Lawrence, you get one for free with the KU library or Lawrence Public Library?
I appreciate that sentiment, Brendan, and I think it's important to make sure you're not duplicating public services. I will point out that Lawrence is not the only campus at the University of Kansas. You have the medical campus, the Edwards campus, remote students all over the world. I think it's also important to recognize that, yes, while it is technically possible to go jump through all the hoops of getting a library card with the Lawrence Public Library. You also have to be prosaic in determining what average college students are going to be willing to do. And taking the 5 minutes to fill out a form through the KU Library's website is, I'm sorry, a hell of a lot easier than going all the way to the library and figuring that out. Moreover, what percentage of KU students do you think are aware that the library deal exists? This is an opportunity for us to send an email out to everybody on campus, which we have done, which we will continue to do, and say, hey, here's how you get journalism. I believe wholeheartedly that the retention rate or the uptake rate is going to be so much higher, that it is so much higher for a program like this as compared to something through Lawrence Public Library.
Austin has a question.
Hey, it's my understanding that a lot of people don't know about this, that we've been paying for this. Is there some sort of plan to try to disperse this information to the student body?
Yes, that's a great question. So first off, the information was included in an email that was sent out to all KU students in the second week. And the hope is that at the start of the spring semester, we'll be able to do that again. KU Libraries has all this information publicly available. My point necessarily is not to force the New York Times down everybody's throat. My goal here is to make sure that for those students that are willing to go out there and access it, and there are thousands of them here, that they're able to do that. And guys, the unit price for a subscription for the amount of students who are, accessing this is very, very low. It is much cheaper than if the students were to actually pay for it themselves. I believe it is far and away the most economical option, even considering the concerns of knowledge and outreach, which I'm more than happy to work on, of ensuring that students have access to this sort of information.
All right, so if we're gonna have any other questions, we need a time extension. Is there a motion to vote? Second by, any second? Ivana, second, any objections? Awesome, we're gonna go ahead and get that vote in. Camden, thank you so much again. Let's go get him. Polls out.
I will add, this requires a 2/3 majority, so.
Reserve, yeah. It's reserve. Let's go ahead. The poll's out. Let's go ahead and give 2 minutes to vote. Again, I'll gavel when 30 seconds hits. Thirty seconds left to vote, and then the poll will close. Close the poll. The poll is now closed. The motion passes with a 2/3 majority, again, because it's a reserve allocation, with 29 in the affirmative, 7 in the negative, and 2 abstentions. Yeah. Awesome. Let's go announcements. Any announcements? Awesome. Good luck with midterms. I'm looking for motion to adjourn. Awesome.